Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So today we have Sister Samia Saeed. She is going for her level 6 exam. Let me open the file right now on my side. So we did the plagiarism report. Jazakallah khair. We did all of those things, came out clean, so which is good. Just yesterday we received a bulletin from EduQual saying we have to we need to deploy much more stricter controls around AI, like how people are using AI. So we just have to comply with those things. So you're okay. So the topic is very interesting: AI-driven DevOps automation and continuous delivery of hybrid multi-cloud architecture on AWS and Azure. Just today, uh, I was in a meeting with my DevOps team and AI Ops team and the SysOps team and the digital transformation team. And I was discussing the same thing because we have infrastructure on both the clouds. And I said, we now need to have a process where we can hunt for the best deal to reduce our bill because the bill, our cloud cost is increasing day by day, right? So I told them we need to come up with a plan through a combination. So I explained them the plan and the process they have to go through. So they will be working on that. So I will be going through all of these things that are mentioned here. Design a hybrid multi-cloud infrastructure using AWS and Azure. Automate the CI/CD pipeline with AI-enhanced tools for continuous delivery. And the objective third is optimize deployments using AI-driven decision making for workload distribution and resource allocation, right? Just alone, the Al Razak program will be as per your, if you choose to do so, as per your topic. So there will be more than 1,000 labs that you have to do, right? You could have done this thing. This is a new Al Razak program that we launch right now. Those students who are just starting the diploma in level 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 within EduQual or doing the dual diplomas, right? They can basically tap into the Al Razak program anytime at the time of their registration, right? So this is a new process. You will be given containers, you'll be given the steps, everything in detail, where our AI is going to walk you through the process. So you have to do those labs. From June onwards, those labs will become part of your assignments, and then everyone needs to do it, right? Not right now, so that is not applicable to you, but it is optional right now for you because it will enable you for job hunting prospects, right? I reviewed your resume. I'm always interested to. So the first thing I always do is open the resume to give me an inside peek of who that person is, right? So when I looked at your resume, you have a GPA of 3.79, almost 3.8 GPA. That's merit, right? Or distinction. What do you call it?
Distinction.
Distinction, right? That's very good, mashallah. Complemented my practical experience in academia and history and industry. It says AI infrastructure optimization, GPU, TPU usage, something we are trying to tackle. I would really be interested to know how you do that. I may not go deeper into all those things that are mentioned because if I go, that will be outside the bounds of the objective of the exam, right? As much as I want to do it, but that's not something I'm going to do right now today. It's going to be 15 minutes minimum, maximum 25 minutes. You can stretch it. Try not to stretch it. Keep it to the topic. Once the time is over for the presentation, minimum 15 minutes, which is the ideal, maximum 25 minutes, right? Then we will have a series of Q&A. You may have already seen this multiple times, right? Happening. If you pass all of this thing, inshallah, then there are some good rewards for you as well. Within the industry, there's a lot of things happening, inshallah. Okay, so you can share your screen.
Mhm.
Yep, share your screen. Okay, are you ready? Okay, let me start the timer. Okay.
Should I start?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please proceed.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Samia Saeed, currently enrolled in AI Ops Diploma of Al Nafi, and today I'm here to present my EduQual exam topic, that is AI-driven DevOps automation and continuous delivery for hybrid multi-cloud architectures on AWS and Azure. In this presentation, I will cover the introduction and the architecture of the hybrid multi-cloud setup, followed by the identity management and resource optimization. I'll then proceed to the application deployment using GitOps principles, and I'll finally conclude with AI-driven CI/CD pipeline to deploy the application autonomously. Let's start by defining the hybrid multi-cloud strategy, which entails combining two approaches, that is a hybrid cloud and a multi-cloud. A hybrid cloud environment integrates on-premise resources with cloud platform to leverage cloud for scalability and on-premises resources for compliance needs, whereas multi-cloud uses multiple clouds to distribute the workloads across them, and this helps organizations reduce vendor lock-in, enhance redundancy, and improve flexibility. When we combine these two approaches, we get a hybrid multi-cloud setup, which provides organization robust operations, compliance adherence, and the adaptability to change with the business needs. For seamless communication in a hybrid multi-cloud setup, we use VPN connection to connect the two clouds. And for on-prem to cloud connectivity, we use direct connection for reliability and security. Once the network is set up, we can then provision the resources, that is AKS in Azure and EKS in AWS, and EKS hybrid on-site, where the control plane resides in the AWS and the worker nodes are distributed across the AWS and on-site location. This helps in centralized management of the workloads. For secure operations, secure access control is very crucial in a hybrid multi-cloud setup. So we use Azure AD as a central identity provider, which is synced with on-premises directory through Azure AD Connect. And for AWS, we use Identity Federation using SAML. This strategy ensures seamless user experience and streamlined authentication, thereby reducing the need for multiple credentials. For optimization purpose, we can integrate various services like AWS Config and Azure Policy with the Kubernetes clusters to impose compliance and guarantee it by configuring the security policies. And we can also use Security Hub to consolidate the findings in a central console. Apart from that, we can also use AWS and Azure Advisor to analyze the configurations and provide recommendations for cost and resource optimization. Along with this, we can also use custom AI model built in SageMaker and Azure AI to proactively gauge the workloads as per predicted needs. And then we can integrate all these services with the Azure Monitor or CloudWatch to monitor for any deviation, which upon occurrence will trigger the function for remediation. The custom AI model can be trained in SageMaker or Azure AI by collecting data from CloudWatch and Azure Monitor with the help of functions, and then sending it to Kinesis, applying ETL transformations through AWS Glue, and then storing it in S3 bucket or blob storage, from where it is then retrieved to train the machine learning model in SageMaker or Azure AI. And once trained, it is deployed. When the model is deployed, Azure function or Lambda function can be used to call the predictive model based on a certain threshold to predict the need for resources. And if the model predicts the need for more or fewer nodes, the function can in return then trigger the autoscaler to proactively provision them. Now, instead of relying on separate cloud native resources for AWS, Azure, and on premises infrastructure, we can use Azure Arc to enable the Kubernetes clusters running outside the Azure and configure them with the Azure native services. This helps in a streamlined operation and simplified management. Once the infrastructure is provisioned, we can then package the application. Tools like SonarQB, Trivi, and Mabel CI can be used to validate the code, scan the images, and perform functionality tests. The process involves static code analysis with SonarQB, then Dockerizing the application and running the vulnerability scan with Trivi, and then running the testing with Mabel CI, and then deploying the application on the containers. To deploy application on the containers across Kubernetes clusters, Helm manages the configurations, whereas Argo CD syncs the configurational changes in the Git repository to reflect in the Kubernetes clusters. This automates the deployment strategy. Now that we have established the infrastructure, application packaging, and the image registry, we can now proceed to integrate of these components into GitLab for version controlled source code management, CI/CD delivery, and image registry. The first step here is to provision the infrastructure. Once the Terraform files are pushed to the repository, the GitLab file, which includes the stages of the pipeline, triggers the initialization to ensure that the dependencies are installed. It then runs validate command to check the configurations and plan to review the changes. And then the changes are finally applied to provision the resources, including Kubernetes cluster. The next step is to provision the application and deploy it, for which the first step is to build the image and then run the functionality test. And after that, the pipeline proceeds with syncing the manifest files through Argo CD and deploying the application using Harness. The final stage here is to monitor this entire setup with Dynatrace or custom AI model for any anomaly, and which upon occurrence will trigger the remediation function for corrective actions. So this kind of pipeline uses AI tools like GitHub Copilot for code assistance, Mabel to predict the critical test, and Harness to deploy through the best deployment strategy and rolling back in case of failure, custom AI model to proactively gauge the workloads as per needs, and Dynatrace for security breaches and network anomalies. This kind of AI-powered CI/CD pipelines can therefore provide secure, reliable, and faster software delivery and operations. That's all about my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
That was just in time. Like you just did it in 10 minutes. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, Bismillah. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So let's start with some of the questions you have mentioned here.
Okay.
So you've shown, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, so you've shown hybrid cloud, hybrid multi-cloud, and multi-cloud, right?
Yeah.
Why organizations should go for hybrid multi-cloud? What's the reason?
We can go for hybrid multi-cloud to leverage cloud platforms for workload distribution and cost optimization, and the on-premises resources for compliance needs, like for storing sensitive data.
Okay. Explain to me why cost optimization? What are the benefits Why shouldn't I just use AWS alone? Why shouldn't I look into Azure and GCP or others out there?
We should use multiple providers for cost optimization to avoid vendor lock-in because if we don't do such kind of practice, we'll get stuck with the one vendor and the cost of migrating will be so high that we'll stay stuck with that.
That's the answer I was looking for. Okay. The keyword is vendor lock-in. So in an identity federated model, right? Identity access management,
Yeah.
outlined in the presentation that you've shown, how would you programmatically enforce multi-factor authentication for AWS IAM roles mapped via Azure Active Directory identities? I mean, what considerations you have to take into consideration? What things you have to take into consideration for on-prem AD, on-prem, like on the premises AD, Active Directory, versus Azure AD, which is hybrid sync scenarios? How would you do that? How would you enforce multi-factor authentication in a programmatically fashion for AWS and Azure clouds?
So we can generate tokens
Okay.
and passwords. And for that, we need to define this in the Kubernetes manifest files, probably, or in the Terraform file.
Okay. I mean, I'm talking in the context of Active Directory, right? So for the Active Directory part, what would you do?
So
If you
when
talk
you
about Active Directory, that's where like we manage all the users, right? Their privileges and their access and everything, right? How would you do that? That's what I'm interested
when
in.
we'll define the provisioning of the Active Directory in the Terraform file, there will also include that we need to implement multi-factor authentication with the tokens or with passwords.
Okay, I'll take that answer. It's a bit crude answer, but then requires more pump in because the topic is pretty complex, right? I can go in deeper, but just have to make sure, like, I just touch the floor as much as I can. All right. So in the presentation, you mentioned it states that AI provides self-healing in pipelines. Explain to me what is
Um,
self-healing.
Self-healing is a inbuilt Kubernetes um, phenomena in which the pods which fail to start are restarted by the Kubernetes itself. And we can use AI to predict the failure of the pod and then we can mitigate it autonomously.
You know what we are doing?
Yeah.
So our pods are in AWS and on Azure both, right? And the containers are bouncing between two clouds. It becomes very complex. How would you do when you have pods in AWS and in Azure, the cluster, and the containers are going back and forth? How would you manage the self-healing process then?
I think we should use load balancer for that case. Or we can also use the service mesh for intercommunication between the two clouds, probably.
I will take that answer. Okay. If given the right hands-on, if you do the Al Razak labs, you'll be able to not only answer this, but also will be able to explain the whole process as well, right? Okay. Uh, explain, you mentioned predictive, right? Analysis, right? So explain the role of predictive testing. Uh,
Uh,
you
Predictive
to
testing
within the CI,
can save our time.
hold on.
Okay,
Let me finish.
okay. Please.
Explain the role of predictive testing as presented in your presentation in the CI/CD pipeline context. Go.
Okay. So we can predict the most critical test case that will detect the issues in the code and the whole pipeline. And then we can automatically run that test to detect any issues
Come
with the
again?
help of with the
Can
help of
you
Mabel CI. It's an AI-driven tool
can
for
you repeat that?
testing.
Can you explain that to me again?
I said that the predictive testing can predict the most critical test case, and then we can implement it to test the issues in the code or the functionality.
Okay. From a security aspect, right? How would you ensure that the security is embedded within the CI/CD pipelines, uh, as mentioned in your objective, using AWS Inspector and Azure Security Center?
Okay, so we can implement security checks in each step. Like we can scan the image with Trivy, and we can scan the resources with the AWS Inspector or Trivy itself, and then we can monitor the whole infrastructure with Seam.
Um, how can you, I mean, what strategy would you employ where you are able to collect all the logs from Azure, NAWS, and GCP into one centralized seam? Should we have one centralized seam? Should we have different seams? I mean, what do you recommend? Like, what is the best strategy?
I will use Prometheus for this case.
No, no, like, is it like one seam or three seams or five seams? How many seams do we need?
No, I think we should use a centralized Seam for this purpose.
Yes, centralized seam. Okay. So how would you know, configure the logs to come where? Where are the logs going to come? You said mention centralized seam. Okay, that's great. It's a syslog centralized server. How would you do that? What kind of logs will you collect?
I think API usage
No.
or application.
No, no. In the seam, what kind of logs do we have? We have
We have web application as
application logs, yes, and
infrastructure logs as well.
infrastructure logs. Infrastructure log contains what?
Activity logs.
Activity logs, network logs, right? Application logs, syslogs, all kinds of logs. Anything that creates a log file, we need to have that in there.
Coming to the C.
Okay. So how does deploying applications via Azure, you know, AKS, Kubernetes, allow consistency in application lifecycle management?
Can you please repeat
First,
yourself?
okay. So how, you're deploying applications, containers on Azure
Mm,
cloud.
mm,
The Azure, they have a service known as Arc enabled Kubernetes, right?
mm.
Have that, right?
Right.
So if you're using Arc enabled Kubernetes, how would it ensure that there is consistency in application lifecycle management?
I think it will provide more consistency than using cloud-specific services or resources, because it will provide a centralized management for this case. We can monitor all the platforms, be it AWS or on-site or Azure, with Azure Monitor, and integrate it with the Azure services.
So you're telling me Azure Arc allows non-Azure K8 clusters, including if it's coming from EKS or from AWS or from GCP, to be managed via what kind of, you said resource manager, right? So what do you call that resource manager?
Kubernetes resources.
Kubernetes resources, okay. Okay. Are there any limitations of this thing?
We will have to install some kind of agent to act as a bridge between the platforms.
No, is there like any limitation of the Arc-enabled Azure services. Do we have something like that? Or is it like the best service available that doesn't have any limitation? You answered the right. It requires agent installation and connectivity. That's one of the limitations. What else is there? What else? There are a few more limitations. Give me one more. Performance monitoring?
We can monitor the performance with Azure Monitor.
It's not as deep as the K8, right? The K8 has much more deeper performance monitoring as compared to, native Azure K8 services. So Arc enabled has some limitations. That's
Okay.
that's the thing. Okay.
Okay.
Could have got this full score. Okay. So if you have to design a distributed, the keyword is distributed CI/CD architecture
Mm.
using, as shown in your diagram, Azure DevOps that deploys a containerized application across AWS, EKS, Azure AKS, GCP. What are the specific challenges within the pipeline agent installation, agent configuration, or secret management or rollout strategy you will face? Because if you're just managing and pushing everything through one distributed, centralized, and distributed Azure DevOps process, right? What are the challenges you will face? Because you're just pushing
Complexity.
everything through AWS, through Azure, and it's going through AWS, it's going to GCP, it's going to other cloud providers. What are the limitations?
I think it will be the complexity and inconsistency.
That's a very generic answer. Give me something deep, something meaningful, something more.
Um, okay, so we'll have to use Vault for secrets management, so it will introduce some kind of complexity to use the third-party tools, and inconsistencies in a sense because there might be some compatibility issues between the platforms and the configurations.
Uh, have you heard about blue-green architecture?
Blue-green deployment, yes.
Yes. In this context, the rollout strategy, what would happen?
Um, we can use blue-green to slowly shift the traffic from one version to the other version, or we can also use A/B strategy to assess user experience in this case.
You haven't done the hands-on stuff, right?
I started the basic labs
Must
because
do a Razak Labs as per your topic. If you do that, people will come to you, to your house to hire you. This is very important. Okay? Inshallah.
okay.
This is very important for you. Okay, last question on the finish line. If you have to analyze challenges as it relates to the synchronization of AI model outputs, for workload optimization, it is mentioned in your resume that you worked on GPU, TPU optimization, right? So that's why I always wanted to see resumes, right? If the resume talks about something, I always take a question out of that as well. So if you have to analyze the challenges, you know, for the synchronization of AI model outputs, right? For workload optimization, the workload is coming from AWS, the workloads are coming from Azure, from GCP. For infrastructure deployment in a multi-cloud pipeline, what challenges would those be?
I have to deploy the application on multi-cloud,
Yes, it's a
a,
multi-cloud. I mean,
an AI application.
yes, I mean, the challenges are AI, synchronization of AI model outputs.
Outputs.
Outputs, AI model outputs. I'm talking in the context of AI model outputs. What challenges would you see?
AI model outputs to synchronize the workloads.
So yes,
Workload
so
of
let me ask you, AI model outputs are notorious for various reasons, right? Right? What is the number one reason? Few reasons. When you interact with Chat GPT, you always see something,
mm,
sometimes there's a delay. What do you
mm,
call that?
latency.
Yes, latency. Good, mashallah. Very good, sister. The other thing is like sometimes the model starts speaking gibberish. What do you call that?
Hallucinations.
AI hallucination. These are the challenges, the problems in AI model outputs. Be that
Okay.
as it may, it can be a context of AI deployment, cloud, multi-cloud, it doesn't matter, applications. These are the limitations,
Okay.
right? There's another one that you have to give me, and I will give you the full marks for this question, right?
Um,
Uh, there's another thing, which is always a problem. What happened to DeepSeek when they announced that they had the best optimized model?
Optimization. I think it's the size of the model.
No, what
Compression
happened to
techniques.
DeepSeek? When they announced it, what happened to them? They went through a process where they were not available, right? Their website was down. What happened at that time?
I don't know.
There was a security issue. So the website was
Okay.
down. So there's a need for secure model trigger automation. So there are three
Okay.
challenges. AI outputs are often problematic, right? Uh, when you throw in infrastructure, it becomes much more complex. It is easier to create models for, content. You give it the books, it can read the books, it can give you the results. But when it comes to infrastructure, it gets more complicated. We are using AI, we know, you know.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So there are multiple applications. The amount of logs that we generate per day is 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte. Can you
Mhm.
imagine? It's 1 terabyte is 1,000 gigs
Mhm.
of logs. It's crazy. So
Mhm.
when I asked them to create a solution where AI is able to review the logs, they said, well, the amount of tokens we are using is in millions and is in billions,
Mhm.
the input and the output. The cost was going up, right? Alhamdulillah, we were given the credits from Microsoft. That's why we were tapping those. But like we were using them like crazy. So we ended up, so I said, okay, uh, peel it back and see what logs are important for us. Because not all logs are important. What are the core logs we have to look into? Infrastructure logs, application logs. Even in the infrastructure, we had to look at. So AI models are very problematic. And one of the other mistakes that the guys were doing was just like they were dumping all the logs in S3 bucket. S3 bucket is not a syslog server. Is it a syslog server? What is better? Is it S3 is better or a syslog server is better for log management?
The SOP server.
Syslog server, right?
S3 is better for backup, for
Yes.
backup purpose.
The guys were making that mistake, you know. The guy who's been working in the in the sysops department for the past 2.5 years made that mistake where he was storing all the logs on an S3 bucket.
Mhm.
And AI was reading the logs from S3 bucket, and it was getting ridiculous, right? The other issue that we always have is synchronization, latency between model outputs and deployments, right? And the last thing is, there can be more, but I'm just talking in the context of three, is need for secure model trigger automation, right? So we need to secure the model, API, so on and so on. I can go in deeper and talk about framework and everything, but that's not the scope of the exam. Okay. All right. Let me consolidate the marks. Okay. So, how was your exam?
I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
There's always room for improvement. Always, always. Right. Wow. Okay. Uh, didn't know. Okay, mashallah, that's good. It's good. Is there anyone sitting next to you or something? Or are you just all alone here going for the exam? Are you sitting all alone?
Yes.
Okay, sister. So that's good, mashallah. You scored 84% in your presentation. It was very good, to the point. Uh, there was some things which were missing, but and that will be mentioned in your report, right? But anyway, there were missing elements. You could have added SageMaker and some of the other things like, you will review the report, because prior to coming here, I reviewed some of the things in your presentation anyway, right? In the Q&A, you scored 22%, right? Sorry, 22 out of 25. So that gives you 88%, right?
Okay.
84, mashallah, and 88, right? So that's your score. So altogether, you scored 86%, mashallah. Okay, that's very, very good score. Okay, here's what you can get. Um, Anyone who passes our exams, complete the course, right? AI Ops. It's either available for dual diploma programs, like whoever they are doing dual diplomas, right? They have that benefit, or anyone who is doing this thing. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, let me open that. So use this opportunity, right, to for at your benefit and figure out what you want to do. Okay, is it this one? No. Is it this one? Trying to find the. Yeah. Okay. So there is a document. I can't find it right now. I think it might be upstairs in the other. Uh, let me see one more time quickly. Next time I will make sure like it's there so that we can announce it. Okay, so you scored, like, anyone who passes their AI Ops exams. It is either available for those who are doing their dual diplomas, right? Um, if I have to show you, then you have that opportunity, mashallah, and you should look into utilizing that opportunity. This is my recommendation for you. Okay, so if you go to this website, the name is anafe.com/pathways, right? You will be able to find that. I'm just trying to load this right now. So you can see the screen, right? Anyone
Yes.
who does these pathways, it can be foundation all the way to AI Ops, right? Complete this, and the AI Ops, or it can be eighth grade, 5+1, 10th grade, 4+1, 12th grade, bachelor's or master's. You already did your bachelor's, right?
Yes.
You did your bachelor's in electronics,
Electrical electronics.
electrical electronics, and then you did your master's in computer science.
Yes.
You did some work here and there, but uh, this is a very tough question to ask. But normally, people, they don't find the jobs. I mean, in the discipline that they have studied, right? Uh, that's another big problem. So you did your AI ops. Anyone who completes their AI ops and they secure merit or distinction, this is distinction, 86%, right? Uh, all you need to do now is complete your Al Razak program. We can help you sponsor. The sponsorship means we can offer you basically a bank statement, right? if you choose to go outside, right? You mentioned to me that you don't want to go outside, right?
Yes.
Right? But
Yeah.
if you choose, that's one option which is available, inshallah. Okay. So that's one option. The other option is that if once you complete your Al Razak program, and I believe that you will be able to do that faster because you have good foundation skills, right? You have to translate them into hands-on skills by going through the Al Razak program. Anyone who pays their examination fee from day one, they will be given access starting from April end, access to Al Razak. So they can do that, keep on focusing on their lectures, on their courses, etc., etc. So they get that benefit as well um, by going through the job training, right? So you need to complete that, inshallah. The other thing is you scored 86%. That's very great. I'm going to recommend you, right? I know that you have worked at multiple places. I'm going to recommend you for an interview with our AI ops team, right? His
Okay.
name is Muhammad Azhar. His name is
Okay.
Mohammed Azhar. He's leading the AI ops team. We are working on agentic AI and explainable AI. There's a lot of things going on, multiple things going on, right? And we're integrating AI into everything we do, right? So you can potentially work with him. The good thing is in our office, in our company, only men come to the office, right? And women, they work from home. They have their flexibility, they have their aura, everything is protected. They don't want to come to the office. We don't ask them to come to the office. Um, some people might say I'm sexist if they're sitting here from the West or whatever they want to say. They can say whatever they want to say. We follow the companies as per our own rules and regulations. It's a private company and we can do whatever we like. Women are given complete freedom. They can work from home and we treat them in the best manner, right? The men, they come to the office. So you have that opportunity, inshallah, right? So you can work from home. That's one thing. You have to go through the interview process. They will be assessing your foundations about LLMs, about different kinds of frameworks and models, right? And also integration with these models, right? Token consumption, utilization, and stuff like that, right? If you pass that, then they will offer you uh, a position, right?
Okay.
Uh, it is yet to be tested, so you have to go through that. I do not influence the process at all, right? I only see if I see a candidate, I always recommend that. So I'm going to recommend you. That's one thing. The other thing is digital transformation team will reach out to you for another opportunity, right? Inshallah. So let me know what works for you, inshallah. Uh, you can save my number if you want, right? And do you have my number?
No, I don't have.
So you can take my number. I'm going to give it to you right now. So this is my number, Sister Samia. Take my number, inshallah. Very well done, mashallah. Very good. Complete your Al Azhar program. When did you start the diploma?
I started in June 2024.
Okay, so you almost completed that in record 10 months' time,
Hmm.
right? Mashallah. That's good. You have to go through the Al Razak. This is very important for you. You have to go through Al Razak program because that is, if you complete the Al Razak program and you get all the things done, then in our company, whoever completes their Al Razak, they pass their diploma and they do all of those things, regardless of they have bachelor's or master's or whatever, they are given 100% increment in their salary, right? But they have to prove themselves. People have proven themselves and they secured that, right? But then they are giving more responsibilities. So again, congratulations in terms of passing the diploma. 86% is pretty good. You scored 84 in your Q&A and 84 in your presentation and 88 in the Q&A, mashallah. Okay, that's good marks, inshallah. Okay, do you have any questions for me?
Please tell me how long will it take me to complete Al Razak Labs?
Depending on how fast and how much time you can invest in. We will give you all the You don't need to decode anything. You don't need to do anything. We will give you basically the containers, the systems, the access, everything on the portal, right? So you paid 1 year fee, right?
Mm.
Right. So you paid 1 year fee. So you still have um, another 6 months plus your 2 months. So you have 8 months. So anyone who pays their 1 year of worth of fee and of AI ops, they're given extra 6 months. So you have that extra 6 months, and you already have 2 months left, right? We're in the middle of the April right now, and so April, May, June, right? So what? So you still have 2.5, 2 months over here, 6 months over there. That's good amount of time, right? You can do it, inshallah. If you spend time, maybe 3, 4 hours a day, maybe more, you might be able to wrap this up in 3 months' time. Your al will be given to you completely. Those who pay their fee complete, they are given the complete al program. Those who go month by month basis, they are given month to month, right? So you will be given lots of containers, lots of labs. Some of the labs are very easy. Some of the labs are medium difficulty. Some of the labs are difficult. Some of the labs are tough, right? That will make you cry. Yes, right? And you will be pulling your hair. Yes. No, I'm just kidding. It's nothing like that. You'll be fine, inshallah. Okay. All right. So, do you have any other questions for me?
No, thank you.
Okay. Jazakallah khair, sister, for your time, inshallah. You did very well. Again, congratulations. And I
Thank you.
hope that if you pass the interview, then I hope to see you remotely during the meetings, inshallah. Okay. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.